Hey, can you guys hear me? Robert. There we go.
There's just nothing more embarrassing than launching something. So I don't know where I lost you guys, but hopefully I'm good now. That's like embarrassing.
That's funny.
All right, you keep running. So did I introduce us, or where are we at?
No, I thought it was me, and I realized it was you. So that was pretty funny. Literally, you went, "Hey, everybody!" and boom, internet went dead. So we'll go take two.
All right, well, here we go. Thank you guys for hanging through our technical difficulties. I think it's my computer, but I'm Todd Bookspan, and I'm so excited on behalf of Dave and the whole team at Mortgage Coach and Win by Noon to have you guys all here on this Friday Mastermind number 152. And Dave may pop in. He's in a big fancy meeting, and he may pop in and join us. However, we don't need him because I got Scott Nicholson with me. What's going on, Scott?
Hey, how are you? I'm excited.
Well, now that my internet's working, I'm excited as well. So I switched to the backup connection. So hopefully we will be good from here. And our goal today really is to continue a couple of conversations. We're going to continue the Storybrand conversation. We're going to continue to talk about really what's been the hottest topic in the community in a while, which is really how do we simplify our message. And what I love is, and Scott and I were talking about before we jumped on, is he is doing some of the most difficult to explain transactions in the marketplace. And so we'll talk through his journey with Storybrand. We'll talk through how he's using it on the renovation and really more importantly on the seller buy down side and how he's executing on it. Because I think that's the biggest challenge, right? Most of us, myself included, struggle with the execution. And so I want to take one from Scott's playbook and let's listen to what he says and figure out how we can leave this call and execute on not the exact thing that he's doing, but on something that's important in our world to make it happen. So why don't you jump in, Scott? I know you were thought long and hard to get prepared for today. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I think this is a really important topic moving forward. So I was super excited. Let me back up. Dave actually referred this book to me, maybe 4 months ago, something like that. Said, hey, I think, with what you do, with your renovation and your seller buy down, this is the perfect book for you. Not only that, with the company you're launching, you have a challenge in front of you, and your challenge is to simplify your message so that the LO, and or the consumer agents can understand what you're doing, because you're playing at it, you're talking way up here and these people are down here. So you need to come down. So you need to really understand this book and the simplicities. And I knew that because that's something I've always said, even in Mortgage Coach. You can rewind the tapes way back years ago. And I always said, the one that communicates the best, and that's that TCA, that's with that video, just literally turning it on, will win the transaction. And that's true today. And so we'll go into some of the details and how I implemented Storybrand, not only for our website, but how I do my day-to-day business.
So Dave tells you about Storybrand, and how long did it take you to buy and read the book?
Downloaded the audio with about an hour later and literally just sat on my phone, laying down on the couch, just listening to it. I was just enthralled because literally it's like, oh my God, this was just a godsend to me. Like, this is it. I mean, this is the holy grail for me. This is what I needed, not only for my personal business, but also for the seller buy down. I huddled Justin, my nephew, who runs the whole, the IT and all that stuff. I go, we got to make changes like this weekend. And so we sat down and recrafted the message and position. So we went immediately. And then I take this because a lot of the seller buy down members, it's more of a coaching too, is that's what we talk about every single day, is simplifying that message. So we went immediately on that.
See, I love that, right? So, people give you all suggestions all the time on something to listen to and read. And it's funny, I would tell you just a behind the scenes strategy. I have a running list of books that are recommended to me. And now I write next to it who it is that recommended it, because I place a higher priority when someone like Dave refers a book to me. And so really from an execution perspective, think about it. How many of you have heard Dave talking about Storybrand now, have watched the Donald Miller video and not actually bought and either read or listened to the book? And so the reason I asked you that question, because I knew the answer was I want you guys to think about that. How do the top producers in the industry execute? And that's a great example. And some of you are saying, well, I don't have a nephew that can help me with my stuff, but that's okay, right? That's just one step in the process of figuring out then what's next for you. And, I just think it's really critical to make sure that we all just take note of that. Execution is really my push for all of you between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we can work on that today. I mean, we can just lay out, we'll story brand the execution for you too today. And it's funny, here's something I said to you, before we got on. If you were to take one thing away, like Scott or Todd, I'm a horrible implementer. Okay, just do one thing today. Every single lead you get, either internet, wherever you get those from, referrals or whatever, if you do a total cost analysis or whatever report is applicable to it, if you do that report, record it with audio, video, and send it out, you've won. You're now story branding, because what you just did, you took the confusion, the complexity of mortgages and what am I going to get, how does this work? You've just eliminated all that. You're delivering it there. So that's just that right there. That's the only thing you need to do today. If you did nothing, you win.
Well, and I love that. Obviously, this is the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind call, and Dave is obviously always spinning it towards, hey, how to use it for a TCA. But you did a study on this to show what your conversion was compared to others in your organization.
Yeah, and right. And so let me tell you that story. So this is a really important story for all of us. And like you said, is I dabble in, or my business is really, two loans I focus on, or I'm known for, is renovation and the seller buy down. Probably the two most complex loans that we have in our industry. And so back in 2016, we did a timeout. We were working on kind of our business, and it wasn't from the lack of leads we were generating in renovation. It was we were pushing in 500 to 600 leads on our renovation platform per month. And so what our problem was back then was the conversion was poor. I mean, these are just go to our site, get educate, call us, form us, we'll pick up the phone, we'll talk. And then these are great. Hey, I found a property, so-and-so can't do it. So we said, wait a minute, we have plenty of leads. Why are we not converting at a higher pace? So we stopped, we look at the whole pipeline and went back a year and say, okay, let's look at what leads are coming in of the branches we had. There's an East Coast and there was the Midwest, and I was out on the West Coast. And the study basically showed I was the only guy doing the TCA when delivering out a home style renovation loan or a K or any type of escrow holdback. I was the only guy. But yet my leads converted at 15%, all leads to fundings, and theirs was just below 1%. And yet our skill sets were exactly the same. But yet just because I used the TCA to show the options and how we did it, in the K versus the home style, different rental budgets. And when I showed that, and when I took that phone call, delivered the TCA, there's my plan, and then pushed it out into application, I got more applications back and more fundings based on guy with a similar skill set.
I mean, that's just crazy, but it's not surprising, right? I mean, you guys know it who are using the TCA, right? It's not surprising at all. But it's interesting that you guys actually took the time to figure that out. I just love that. And it's so complex, right? I mean, you just said you're taking the most complex loan, and we were talking about, the whole idea of the Storybrand piece is to, I hate the word dumb it down, but is to simplify it down to a fourth grade level. So how are you doing that?
Yeah, I think one of the things was, when I read the book, or I heard the book, I did it on audio, by the way, is just for me. One of the things I had to do was, if you were to ask me, like, Scott, what is the seller buy down, right? But that's, so two things I wanted to solve right there. One is so I can effectively communicate in a simple manner, in a quick manner to you. And it's this, Todd, I help the seller get the sales price they want and deliver a buyer a payment they need. That's all I do. Think about it. And then back to the website, and one of the things, and I'm going to back up just a little bit, why I pivoted, and it was about this time. Now it's actually Christmas of last year, and it dramatically impacted where I'm at today in my business in launching the Seller Buy Down. We rented a cabin up in the mountains in Christmas time, and drinking and telling stories and having fun with family. Justin's there, my nephew, who's a big IT guy, right? So it's huge IT, does big projects for big. They fly him up and signs the non-disclosures and can't really talk about stuff and product launches and all that stuff. He's always wanted to get in our space. It's always kind of tugging at my sleeve. Come on, Uncle Scotty, let's do something, because I see massive opportunity here. I go, all right, I got one for you. So it's a big one. I got to figure it out. And think of last year, the rates were just like skyrocketing and literally just shut the markets down. People are like, oh my God, how do I keep my agents moving, my purchases? How do I deliver? Affordability went through the roof. I go, here's the deal. I want to launch a Seller Buy Down, take everything I've learned in the 12 years, and I want to create it. So my why, I want to enable loan officers across the country, not just Scott and a couple. I want to enable people that want to help the consumers and their partners. I want to then start that band of brothers in the Seller Buy Down, so they can have the assets and the teaching and the tutoring I have, and they can go out to market with it. That's the whole, we launched that in April. And to where we're at now of fine tuning it, story branding it, constantly simplifying it. One, that I'm super excited for 20, knowing where that's going. Number two, my personal production. What does that mean for me, and how that helped me in my story branding and Seller Buy Down and renovation? Well, I know in personal production, I know in renovation, that's a hard piece. So those who've done renovation, it's a really difficult loan, especially when you have resource issues as far as labor and such. It's really hard to get those bids back from those contractors and get them efficiently and get them on time and meet those deadlines, and they start to drag on. And so what I realized coming into this year, I need to do less of reno and more of Seller Buy Down, and the reason I wanted to do that was I could help more people in a very efficient manner versus having 60, 90-day escrows, and sometimes even get 6-month escrows because we can't get the bid organized or labor on the job and all that other stuff. So I knew as a financial standpoint, I had to pivot more into a traditional method, and I knew with the market changing, this is something I could get up and then not only help me. So what it did from a personal perspective, it helped me land a $100 million account. And so now, and let me show you how this went. Now I'll tell you the story here is I get a text saying, hey, I just referred you to an agent and we're at a party and I heard her talking and my ears tuned in because he knew what I did. He knew my message. I help deliver a sales price the buyer wants and gets the payment a buyer needs, right? And so we knew that messaging. I simplified it there because I'm going to connect you. And very next day, got connected. I got brought in. And this is the goal for a Seller Buy Down LO. I got in the middle of the transaction. I'm that negotiator. As Dan Keller's the coach, right? I refer to myself as that negotiator guide type thing. And so I got in there. Seller was here, buyer's here, did the whole presentation. Seller had a couple questions, wanted to know where this money was going, didn't understand discount points. Simple explanation, saw the presentation, brought the buyer's agent, brought the buyer, done, open escrow. Led to me presenting to their team, and she's got massive inventory sitting there that's just getting stale on the market. And we launched the entire thing to her in marketing. And so that's where I want to go. That's where I want to take my people.
Love it. Love it. All right. So a couple of just factual stuff. Someone's asking, what's the website for your Seller Buy Down for loan officers?
Yeah. Just if you go to sellerbuydown.com, that's just the main site, right? And then you go find a lender, just go find me. You just go find a lender and click on Scott, then you can see Scott. Or whomever are there. And so we'll get into that later. Let's stay relevant to, sorry, I don't need to take it down that way. It's not like an edu-sale or whatever, but it's more of how do I implement Storybrand to make that communication, I can get more success into my partners and to my consumers, right?
I love that. Most people would take that whole like, hey, let me sell you my product, because people are asking. And it's super interesting. And at the end too, those of you who don't know about seller buy downs, we'll make sure that Dave and the team post some of Scott's previous stuff on the seller buy down strategy. We talked about that a lot last year. Now Scott's made it easier and available for the rest of the world. And so as you talk through it, one is we talked about simplifying the message, and then the other part they talked about is laying out the process. So what other changes have you put into effect in your business since listening to the book?
I think one of the things that it affirmed what I kind of knew, but it gave me like, okay, I'm on the right path. And it's, people want that plan. What's my plan? And so when I met with that client and we'll figure out what they're trying to do, what their goals are, and what are their pain points and the experiences and what they're looking for and all that. Sorry, my Facebook Live turned on. It was distracting looking at yourself right over there.
I got it up over here. That's what I'm watching on this side. So I'm answering questions while you're talking.
I'm high ADD, so I can't have those squirrel moments. So, see, I already forgot. So once you hit 50, your memory goes to crap. So what was the question?
What are the steps that you've implemented? What else have you implemented besides a simple message?
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. You don't got that too, and you couldn't say like, I don't know, Scott, what I was telling you.
No, I have it too, and I'm checking Facebook. Just so you know, Joe said he's on his way home from closing now, right, where a seller buy down made it happen. So nice job.
Oh, nice. And so what it affirmed was have a plan. People want that plan, right? People need that plan. So when I'm figuring out and I take it into two parts, what's their qualifications? What's their CIAs? What are they trying to achieve? Then I create that plan, right? Then I'll talk to them a little bit about that, right? So it's more of a verbal plan. But then when I hang up, and usually what I'll do is I'll take my leads throughout, I'll take my notes, and I'll go through all my notes. And then what I do is I block, and then it's all TCAs, right? And then I'll start banging out my TCAs, opening up my pricing and build all my stuff out. Now what I'm doing is building the plan, right? So now let's say it's a reno loan, and say we know it's going to be K based on credit and down. Then we know the price point we're going to offer, but we're not sure of the rental budget. And so I'll give them, X, Y, and Z in rental budget, which is an acquisition price. So they get to see it. At the end, we have a call for action in there. I have a simple template I paste in there. It's my online application, walk them through. So 1, let's get the app going. 2, let's write that offer, get that property tied up. 3, let's get that contractor involved. 4, let's get the HUD consultant involved. And then 5, let's get this offer accepted and let's get that bid finalized so I can get the appraisal and finalize whatever. So just really simple. They just want to know step by step by step. Just keep it simple. And there it is right there. I mean, putting that TCA and giving the plan, there's 2 ways you can be successful in your business with story branding.
So are you now then laying out those stages in the video on the TCA, or has that changed anything there?
No. And so, I give them the verbal plan. Then I write with the plan in the TCA. So there's my numbers to back up what we talk and affirm, right? And I'll usually communicate to, if the husband's at work or if I'm talking to the missus, I'll speak to both so they appreciate the audio video. 1, I could build rapport immediately if this was an internet lead. Number 2, the other spouse can hear what's going on here. It's important. Number 3, the staff knows what's going on because they're going to watch that video in the screenshots and knowing how I'm structuring this. And then the body of the email is just a simple step by step applications back, homework email with a portal to upload back to loan boarding. And then they're working on a parallel, just let's get bids final. And that's it. I'll just leave it at that. And then there's their simple, watch the video, get your application. We'll help you build the file out, and then let's get contractor involved. That's a renovation plan.
So look at that, gang, right? It's lay out those steps to keep it simple for your folks. I can just tell you that I think overall as loan officers, we do such a great job of complicating things. There's a book called Made to Stick by the Heath brothers, and they talk about it. They call it the curse of knowledge, right? We know this so well. We do it every day. It's kind of that script to your clients of, hey, you know what, client, just so you know, there's 2 or 3 ways for me to explain this to you differently. So if it doesn't make sense, it's not because you don't understand it. It's because I'm not explaining it well. I've got the curse of knowledge. I do this every day and you don't. So please interrupt me and ask me, because I'd love to explain it in a way that makes sense to you. Right? So think through that. And then here you take what Scott's saying, and he's talking about the simplification. You said something cool beforehand too. You said teach, tailor, and control. Do you mind talking about that for a minute?
Yeah, that's another book that I've basically kind of swiped and kind of, I guess if we had a hybrid of 2 books, this would, the 2 books, if I were to have them, mate and create one book, that would be the Challenger Sale and the Storybrand. And so Dave again referred, there's that list again of the referral source, and like, okay, Dave knows me well on a personal level. He knows what I'm trying to do business wise. And so he's kind of that mentor to me. So you're like, dude, you need to read this book. And so when I got to that teach, tailor, and control, and I'm like, light bulb went on. I go, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Because in my mind's eye, what is the seller buy down about? And I went into, if you ever seen that little clip I posted, Dave wanted me to post a little clip of me. I was teaching a group of agents to seller buy down, right? I don't know if you ever seen that one I posted.
Maybe, maybe not. So why don't you tell us about it?
So what I did is I took a segment of it, and it was me teaching the seller buy down. And then in that episode, one goes, oh, I got one right now. I got a problem child. And so I was teaching them, right? And then I tailored the solution on a TCA, and then I took control of the transaction. Well, do you need that agent to step, or that lender step in? I go, well, no, we can take it. So I basically is teach the strategy, tailor the solution on TCA or seller buy down or rent versus on whatever you're talking about. So teach the strategy, tailor it, and then take control. And that's seller buy down by definition, is teach the agents or the consumers in that particular transaction about it, tailor it on either a seller buy down or a TCA report, and then take control. And that's the important part at the end. And that's where you want to be, because that's where I position myself as that in the middle negotiator. And this is, okay, this is the price we want. This is delivering the payment we need. This is the money. It's our net. Okay, here's our solution. Let's go. I'll help you write. I get involved in those purchase contracts. So I'm helping them, the buyer's agent, structure the appropriate contract that we can eliminate all the RESPA high cost lending laws. You have to have it structured correctly on a seller buy down. If you don't, then compliance will kick that out. And or if a buyer comes in and says, I'll just do that on my own. Great, but you can't do that because, and I always say a buyer can never do a seller buy down on their own, because on a bigger one, because it's not structured in the purchase contract correctly. That means they're going to count against that consumer. So sorry, I'm going Storybrand and Donner Miller's going, Scott, stop. You're too complex. Go back. So I'll actually go back on that one. So yeah, so that's how I take control of the transaction.
I love it. So someone's asking a quick seller buy down question. I don't want to get too off track, but he's saying, is this, with rates coming down, does it lend itself more to the high-end market right now? Not only because buying the rate down is easier, but also because that market is softer than other segments.
Yeah, and so great question. And so think of 3 tiers in the marketplace. So let's just put it this. Let me back up. Do we all agree as a community we have 2 issues in today's market with consumers, with buying, right? And those 2 issues are affordability. Do we all agree on that?
I do.
Absolutely. Number 2, in particular, move-up buyer or some type of buyers, the lack of capital, the investment of a down payment, right? Or identifying that person who has the mentality of, nope, grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad always tell me to save my 20% before I jump in so I don't have mortgage insurance, right? Or I need to save a certain amount of down payment in order for me to qualify. Because that typical lender, box lender saying, no, I'm sorry, you can't come in with 5. You're going to need either 10 or 15. That's how they're figuring out affordability. So if we both agree that it's affordability and lack of capital, well, the seller buy down helps both of those directly in a huge way. And so now let's look at the 3-story house, which is our housing market. Ground level is from that first-time home buyer. That second-story level is that medium home price, and where it gets that second level, and everyone's different based on, the medium sales price for the state or county. And I always say where it starts to really wobble is take your county loan limits. Let's say we're in Orange County, right? 726. Add 10% to that, so it'll take me to the 850 range, right? At 850, that's where the wheels are falling off and they're just going sideways. That gets me into that third level. And the reason why is that second level and that consumer trying to deal with, Scott, all I got is 10%. I can't come up with more, so I can't get into the jumbo, right? Or I can't put a big, or I can't come up with more money to make it more affordable, right? Dealing with mortgage insurance, there it starts to know I need, the sales price is too high. And I'll give you a perfect example. I'll show you one that I just did on Tuesday. So an agent called me, property's priced $850 in Orange County. And I now was brought in because he knew what I do, knew exactly what I do. Scott, I need your help. I need you 2 things. Number 1, I need that little seller thing you do, right? That's what he called it. I go, all right, sell it right on. He goes, yes. I got a buyer coming in, so I need to help them make it more affordable. And so I get through 2 questions. And the second thing is I want that report because I want to show the seller for 2 reasons. Number 1, I want him to show how I can get this house on the market and sell. We can help this buyer come in because there's no activity. Number 2, he's in escrow. He wants to write an offer at a 1.2. And he's not getting it enough to get it at what he thinks he needs to make it affordable. So I need you to do an up-leg seller buy down for me. So that was the call on Tuesday, and I'll show you how I worked it. And so now let's go back to the actual question. Sorry. So yeah, low rates, here's the deal. And a new member yesterday in the seller buy down community just put one together. It's Brandon. He put one together in his area, and he delivered a 2.75. Blew everyone away. And so the reason he put it that way together is he structured it, and it was a smaller price point. It's like 400,000 up in the Sacramento area. And he negotiated certain small seller buy down, took the rate all the way down and delivered to, I think it was 2 3/4. And the reason he did that was because that person needs some affordability and that house is just sitting there. So it's starting to bleed down as far as the affordability. And just the recent spike up, look, we lost a quarter, right? The last,
that was ugly.
Yeah. I mean, that's impacting today's market.
All right. So someone's asking if you could address the part that you were starting to talk about of how to structure the sales contract so that it's done correctly.
That's the secret sauce right there. It is the secret sauce. And so that's something I've always held back. I've held close, and I'll tell you, and how it works is if you in the purchase contract structure the concession and you write it up as seller paying buyer's discount points used for buyer's discount points, if it's structured in that, there's multiple ways you can write it. But if the theme is that written that way, then compliance will strip that out from all the predatory high cost lending right there.
Appreciate you peeling back the curtain on that one. I didn't know I was stepping into the danger zone with that question.
I've always kept that secret because a lot of guys will come into our community here and say, this thing doesn't work. I negotiated 6% concession, and we kind of like, well, did you have it in the purchase contract? No, I didn't. There's your problem right there. No, it doesn't matter. I go, it does matter. That's why you can't. So it'll trigger predatory high cost lending laws because they're going to include that in the test. And I always say a rule of thumb, when you do this, just a normal rule of thumb for any loan, it's 3% of the loan amount. If you exceed 3% of the loan amount, you will trigger.
See, that's awesome. And so just again, so you guys know, you can see in the notes here in Facebook that Robert with Dave's team has posted up some of the videos that Scott's done in the past. So a lot of that is in there for those of you who are still scratching your head and wondering what the heck is a seller buy down. But you know, it's so interesting to me. Again, you're you're executing on these ideas. And so how do you take the person today who's saying, well, this is still great, Scott's so experienced, he's been doing this thing. How do I take this Storybrand thing in my normal non-seller buy down business and execute on it?
Yeah, I think one, just if you do a TCA or rent versus own or any report in Mortgage Coach, and I'm not plugging Mortgage Coach, it's the fact.
We can plug Mortgage Coach. It's okay. Everyone knows.
Right. So it's a fact. So if you just did that, you've already won. Now you're going to take your intellectual capital. How does your brain think? Right. So how are you? Because everyone's brain is differently. Like, I don't see that. I don't know how you even, but you can eventually learn it, right? So you learn it. And that's why I created the Seller Buy Down. And I created that whole website so you could come in and be the Scott of your city and your state, and you get everything I have and on there. So now you literally can go from 0 to 100, but that's great. But now, how many agents can you get in front of and effectively communicate your message? And that's one of the big things that I coach. I coach on Thursday mornings in the Seller Buy Down group. I have a private Facebook group with my members, and that's what we do. We just dummy it down. And I'll show you a couple things. Do you want to share the screen, and I'll show you exactly how this works?
Hey, Robert, can you help us with that so that Scott can share his screen? I don't have the controls, but hopefully you'll have it handed to you momentarily.
I think I can do it.
There you go. Look at that. It's working.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So let's do this. Here is a post from yesterday, right? So here's what I did, and I'll blow this up just a little bit without losing us. You see that?
That's Rate Watch, you guys. So those of you who don't know, that's the Mortgage Coach Rate Watch app that he's got a photo of there.
So I took it, opened it up. That's like crack. That's my Facebook, the Rate Watch app. Just watching the market, especially now. Just there's so much swings going on, and even staying on Rate Watch, just watching a little news, watching the market, listening to Dan. Right? I knew the media was going to come out Tuesday morning with this so-called trade deal. I locked a bunch of people on Monday, late afternoon, Monday evening. And when that market came out, we had that big drop. Hallelujah. So I immediately went to those clients, guys, I locked you. Don't worry. Here's what we got. And everyone was, thank the Lord. Thank you very much. But then now when we had the big movement, this was yesterday, right? So we had that big gap down and was continuing to sell off. So first thing in the morning, I went to my agents. Guys, FYI, rates are getting clobbered. We lost a lot due to the trade or so-called trade with China. Don't need to get complex there. There's story branding. But then here, remember my message here is, but that's okay because we have the secret weapon, seller buy down. So I want to be in their mind. So keep in the back of your mind, if things come up and an offer on your listing comes in low and or a seller on their up leg, they're stressing about the net that's coming out, let me know. And so literally 2 hours or 3 hours later, guess what comes across? One of my teams. Hey, Scott, question for you regarding the low breakdowns on Kristen's buyers. They made an offer on the property and we're stuck on price. Buyers willing to offer $2.1 million. The seller's stuck at 2.25, building out the third bedroom. So they wanted me to run the numbers in the first, so think of the numbers at 23110 with 60 in the seller buy down. And I'm thinking in my mind's eye, because I've done so many of them, easy. And I kind of knew what the results were going to look like. And so I asked two questions. Think of the two questions I asked. Where's my comps? We're not going to waste anyone's time if comps are at $1,075,000, right? Now this is a new construction. Oh, actually, I didn't want to say that. I'll show you another thing in a second. So my comps are easily supported at 231. I didn't want to go up there, right, and not be supported because we're just going to just blow it apart when the appraisal comes in. Number two, and they've already answered it, is how much money do I have to work with? They told me 60. And so here are the results. And so right here. So I got their payment. So I did and I'll post this video in the group. So this was column one was where the seller was at. Right? Or no, buyer. Buyer's stuck here. He doesn't want to go any further. Number two, this is where the builder was at. He's not coming down any further than this. This was his net. He's not coming down. There's no way. It's not going to happen. So we got a $150,000 gap in there. So I had my 60 to play with. So I came in with a seller buy down. Look where I got the payment within. I got the payment with $115, $114. And the spread, I closed the spread by $150,000 and got the payment within $114. So I'm delivering even on a jumbo at 4% with $60K. I took it to 3 1/8 on a jumbo 30-year fix, got the payment they want, and he's got the net he wants. So think about the sentence I told you, what the seller buy down is. I'm giving the seller the payment they want and getting the buyer's payment they need. Price point. So I think I'm getting the seller the price they want and delivering the buyer the payment they need. And that's the seller buy down. That's how you fix things in today's market.
Dude, that's huge. Like, I mean, think about that, everyone. What if you can be that solution guy that people call when they're in the middle of a negotiation and they can't seem to figure out how to put it together? I mean, that is awesome. Now, I realize some of your heads are blowing up because you're like, well, my average price is $250,000, but it still works for lower price points, correct?
Well, yeah. Let's go, because someone asked that question, and let's go back to that question, and I'll show you some of the things I do in my personal mortgage coach. I have my go-to presentations, right? Like the no PMI. And so I'll have smaller presentations of what I do with, so let's say the price is $300,000, right? And I can get maybe 5 or 6 or whatever. And so I'll say, great. Let's say it's a 5% down conventional. What I'll use that money for is I'll buy the rate down a smidge, plus I'll buy out of the single premium PMI. And so when I add the two together, and I'm talking a smidge in rate, I'm talking like a quarter, nothing really big, because the PMI has way more impact when I eliminate that. And so the reason why I move it just a smidge on rate is because now I'm below market, they can't shop me, right? Like, oh, shoot, everyone else is sitting at this level and Scott's down right underneath them. So I eliminate that. And then all of a sudden they get to payment, like, oh my God, look at my payments way down here. And so the key thing to show on a smaller price point is the percentages are exactly the same. If they took a $300,000 house and they want to take $5,000 off price, that's a 1% drop in ratio in payment. If they took the same $5,000 and did a small little reduction and bought out of the single premium, that's a 6% drop in ratio. But think of, it's still the same. And so what you do and how you present those presentations, I'll show you like on this one. This one actually doesn't have it. Oh, let me pop in here. It'd be structured just like this. Column 1, here's how you can buy it, just normal. Let's just say it's 300,000 conventional. Column 2, and I'll post this in the group too. Column 2 is we take 5,000 off the seller buy down and implement that, right? I actually sometimes go 4 columns. Normal price, as is, standard, every lender's gonna offer. Column 2, 5,000 off price. Column 3, 5,000 seller buy down, wipe out, single premium, PMI. Column 4, here's the secret. Column 4, and I just did this one the other day. It was right around 300. I dropped the price in standard financing terms, had mortgage insurance, standard rate. I took the payment, the sales price all the way down to $275,000. And what I showed, I gotta find that presentation. It is powerful on a smaller price property. It is, I just signed out. It is, it's magical at smaller stuff. So now I'm playing in the third level, the third story of the house, which is higher price. I'm playing in the second story, which is 10% above your county limits. I'm playing in the first story because now I've just reduced Mr. and Mrs. Smith, renter, home buyer, and I reduced ratios by 6%. That's a huge deal.
It's ridiculous when we talked about the fact that one of the challenges is affordability, right? So, I mean, this is like, high level being a mortgage pro, right? Being a mortgage coach. So you guys may have to go back and watch this again. So appreciate the fact, Scott, that you're going to share with our community, and then watch the other videos, because this is separating you from everybody else, right? Everyone else is just looking at their rate, and all Scott is doing is helping them restructure their loan, right? He's the negotiator, so that not only is he saving his client money, but he's also making the seller feel good, which makes him a hero to his client and to all the realtors.
There's your Storybrand. So what am I doing with Kristen and to her buyer right now? Buyer is telling Kristen, I'm only going to budget 2-1. And so I've enabled Gina, right, and Kristen to come back to their buyer and say, no, here's how we're going to structure this, right? So she's the hero with the client. So I'm enabling them to present, and they know it somewhat well, because this is the $100 million relationship. And now I'm in every single transaction now. Scott, I got an offer, look at it. And this is what we get a lot of, and I cringe sometimes. Someone's going, hey, I'm gonna go double out my listing agent. Come on, that's not very good, you know? But why not be inside with that partner, with that listing agent, and say, any lowball offer that comes in, bring me into that conversation, and I will produce a TCA and educate the buyer's agent and the buyers how to correctly put that purchase or that agreement together. So 1, we can get the price we want, and 2, get the payment you need. That's how you do that. When you get in those relationships, you may not win the transaction, but guess where your number one target is? It's not your buyer. You're helping your listing agent. It's actually your seller. The seller looks at this and like, oh, Lord. And that's where you get your application, your homework assignment, because you're going to be doing his up leg or his next purchase out. If he's moving out of state or he's moving up, that's a really important one, because I'm getting more and more calls from listing agents and sellers about what? I didn't get enough out of my listing. It's affecting my up leg. So I use the seller buy down, not for affordability, but to increase their buying power with less down payment. Instead of putting 40% down, we're coming into transactions putting 35 and 30% down less, but still giving the same payment they want. That's important.
Well, and remember, folks, too, is one of the things he said is you've got to be able to be looking at the appraised value as well. So, I mean, that was just one other piece, because it doesn't help if they push it up and then the property doesn't appraise, then all the magic you created poops away, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, let me be crystal clear on that. There's 2 questions every single time, 2 standard questions above and beyond their CIAs, credit income assets. Number 1, if Todd, you were my agent, right? If you were my listing agent, I'm helping here.
I'd be honored.
Yeah, right. So number 1 is, Todd, where's my appraised value? Where's my value? Where's my fair market price? I need comps. Scott, I can easily get it at 550. No problem. Okay, good. Number 2, how much money do I have to work with you and your seller? And they'll be answered in 2 ways. Number 1, a definitive answer from Todd, my listing agent, because he knows what a seller needs to net, right? He's going to go, Scott, you got $16,000, make it happen. Or the other question is, I don't know, Scott, you tell me, right? Then I'll go back and work up, okay, so to make this work, and he needs his payment to here, I'll figure it out and come back and go, I actually need $19,500. Done. Make it happen. Or the third, actually there's 3. If they don't know, then I'll say, Todd, listing agent here, your house has been on the market for 60 days, 35 days, 90 days, 180 days. What was your next move? What were you going to price drop it? Agents, all they know is price drop, right? I got to reduce price. But let's say it's already at value. Scott, I was going to hit it for $25,000. And so in your mind's eye, I know I can go all the way down and do a super aggressive seller buy down, take it to 3 1/8 or take it to 2 3/4 for only $19,000. Go, Todd, save your money. I'll save you $6,000 and implement a full-blown seller buy down for $19,000 and have way more impact, triple the impact, what that means is if he's at $550 and I'm bringing in a $19,000 seller buy down, I'm moving up buyers as if they're coming in at $490, $485, right under in that high 4s. I'm bringing a whole nother clientele up into Todd's listing for him for a fraction of what he thinks he has to do.
So I've got to imagine that people are thinking a lot of these listing agents then are now referring you those offers, those buyers that are coming in that other lenders have pre-approved?
That's one of my campaigns. And so if one of my yard sign campaigns is, and here's what we want in today's market, like Dan Keller, like, Dan, this is to you. I'd love to work with you and teach you how do we get into those listing agents. And so I can set up shop for Dan. Dan knows the seller buy down. I can set up shop for him in the Seattle area, and I can go into his area, pull it up. I mean, look at, just go to Zillow and look. This guy just price cut at $240,000. This guy's price cutting $100,000. This guy's sitting on the market for 526 days. I mean, you just go on and on. Look at all the new construction that's sitting there. And so so think of someone wants to target listing agents. This is the absolute easiest but most efficient and gets to the heart of the matter and how to help sell listing agents sell their house at the price without giving it away. So help them get the maximum price they can get, which is really the seller's maximum net, but deliver a payment the buyer needs in order to qualify, either for bank reasons wise or personal budget wise. I mean, you can't get any better positioned than in that space. And then one of the things why I built the seller buy down and the things we have with it is once you sign up, I've solved one of the biggest issues that we have as mortgage coach consumers is our LOs is, how do I get my content out there? How do I get my content out to the masses, right? And so there's that call text response that we've built into it. And so now we can deliver those yard signs. Now we can deliver that messaging on there that now I'm helping lead gen and push my TCA seller buy down videos to the masses. That's our goal. And that's where I can help you in that. Now, let me back up a second. I'm going to show you Heartwood. Let me go back up into Kristen and Gina's story. So I asked the two questions. Where's my comp? How much do I got to work with? It was 60. Comps are 3.150. It's new construction. And I go, shoot, Gina, how much construction do you have down there? And they're in Laguna, Newport area. I go, we got a lot. I go, great. Here's what's really cool. There's two new releases I'm giving you on the seller buy down that I'm launching that we'll have for the holidays. Number one is a new builder division. So I can actually take a mini website built for this specific project if it's 2 units or 110 units. And we're going to put all the assets up there. We're going to put all the marketing in there. We're going to put all the floor plans, all the specs, all the stuff, all the seller buy down, everything. And we're going to go ahead and launch this into the market with yard signs and everything. And we're going to take this package and we're going to go to every single builder that you want to go to as a team. And we'll make sure this is all RESPA compliant, all that stuff now, because I'm co-marketing now. And we're going to partner with a builder, a spec. I don't want the KB guys. I want the small guys, go from 2 units to, 110. And she goes, oh my God, you do that? That'd be incredible. Okay, good. Number 2, remember that non-QM loan we just put together? I'm going to now have a non-QM website for all of seller buy down. So I'll be launching that too, because, and the reason why, those non-QM loans, they stink. They're at high 4s to 7%. And they just are a perfect fit with the seller buy down. So you structure the transaction with, great, we'll give you this. We need this. And I'm going to take your rate from 7 1/8 to 4 3/4 at this. Now I've made it more affordable. Now I'm offering 12-month bank statements to my self-employed buyer that can't show tax returns. And so I'm taking this whole different level now. And so it's something that there's a little secret. There's my Apple, tease launch, so to speak. That's coming out to the seller buy down communities. A builder division and a non-QM division.
Love it. Love it. So, all right. I don't know about you guys, but like my mind is racing. And so here we go as we kind of crank out the last 10 minutes here with Scott. If you guys have more questions, throw them into Facebook or Zoom if you're there. We started off this journey really talking about Storybrand and how to tell your story. And then Scott's given us a lot of gems along the way about how he's using Storybrand techniques to simplify what's a super complex message. What other tips would you have for someone who says, hey, I'm not going to mess around with this renovation loan. I'm not going to mess around with this seller buy down. How can someone who's just doing quote unquote normal loans simplify their message.
I think Storybrand also affirmed the mega producers. I forget her name. She's a blonde haired gal you had on here, and she had the own process, right? What was her name? I think she's out of
Sheila Gifford.
Yes. I mean, she's amazing, right?
Yeah,
I don't know her. I've just watched her videos and I'm like, that's amazing. So what Storybrand affirmed in that type of space is, and Donald Miller said, if you can eliminate the frustration and create a kind of a red carpet for me that I know the path and I know I can go down and be that guide for me through the process of getting a mortgage, game over, right? So that's good. And so if that's what you've created, Donald Miller just affirmed that. So to eliminate all of the hurdles and make it an efficient, seamless, communicative process, you're going to win. The problem is I have with that is I don't have that type of I don't have that type of bandwidth in that space, so to speak. I do have that as a one-man show and in my LOA. But also I feel like the tech industry is trying to do that, like CarMax. Like he gave the example of CarMax. Like, hey, I'm going to strip it all out. Our commissions are just on the car, and I'm going to make this super seamless. And I think some of the tech companies that are coming in are trying to make that super, super efficient for that typical client. I just think, and like you said with the Heath brothers, I think you said, I'm actually cursed sometimes with like how my mind thinks, like, gosh darn it, there's sometimes I'll go into communication like I just destroyed that. There I go. They're leaving here like their heads blew up. I just screwed that thing up. And so so I want to be in that space because I love that space. And if I Donald Miller that thing down or challenge or sell that down to where I can teach, tailor, and control and or simplify to a fourth grade, I'm going to win in that space. My mind wins right there. And if I can just tone it down, I'll continue to dominate that space.
Well, one of the things that Donald Miller said was, right, you don't need a script, right? He called it something different. I call it building blocks, right? Like what are those building blocks that you need of your conversation that you have of how you simplify it? The problem is if you have a script is you tend to ram that through without taking a breath and without letting a client ask a question. And so it's tell them something, let them respond, right? The less you talk, the better off you are normally. And then use that next building block to address that concern and go from there, right?
Yeah, here's a story that's relatable to that, a perfect one. And I'll go back into my old career many moons ago as a golf pro, right? And so I played, as a youngster through college, and I turned pro. But my last leg on that was I was a teaching pro. And so for my last few years there, this is 20 years ago before I got in the mortgage space, and I'll never forget this experience. And one of the things I realized when another PGA member says, hey, to be good as a teacher, Scott, you need to be relatable to your student. And I went, what? Just as a kid, like, what are you talking about? He goes, you need to understand when your engineer comes in, wants to know exactly how it works and show it to him, then you need to speak that way. If you get your artist, your band member coming in, then they need to feel it versus them to communicate to it. Then you need to show them that way. So I'm in a lesson and I'm with one of my clients, the client, he goes, Scott, enough. Just tell me how to swing this damn club. He didn't want stories, metaphors, or any of this like feely stuff or any of that. Just tell me how to swing the damn club, And I realized, oh my God, he was right. So I knew when I was teaching my McDonnell Douglas scientist guys and my doctors, I had to teach a certain way. When I taught, so take it back into the mortgage space, and what Donald Miller is you need to learn to communicate on how your clients how they can receive that information. And Roberto Monaco taught us this way back when it's like, think of a ladder. You need to bring it down and teach to that first time home buyer, or if they have the capacity and they know, or bring it up a little bit with them. But most of it's received down here on that lower rung on the ladder.
I think you're always safer there, right? Until you guys become experts at like a behavioral style, like using a DISC assessment or something similar to that, right? Because it's always, just think of it this way. It's the mirroring of your client, right? And make sure that you're bringing your level up for that engineer who's super knowledgeable about mortgages or thinks they are, right? The challenger sales, don't be afraid to challenge him or her. And then also bring it to the level of the new buyer to make sure that you're not overwhelming them with information. And you guys know what, that's basic, but just think through it because you want to talk their language when you're talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, if you were to walk away, I'm going to look at my notes and cheat just for a second. Sorry.
All right. Make sure you didn't skip some of your brilliance, because I so appreciate the fact that you came in prepared and you just crushed this last almost hour.
I think have your client memorize what you do, who you're offering, is a huge thing. And so think of it as a seller buy down or the rental guy. I want them to know when they walk out of my office or they walk away from me, I want them to know, or they're at that pool party and that $1 million agent's whining about her listing and can't get it sold. I want them to know, like, I know what Scott does. I know his offer, right? And that's the key. That's what he's saying. That's what he's doing, the whole sales thing.
So how are you going to do that? Because someone says, oh, that sounds really easy for Scott, but how am I going to get that person to repeat what it is I do and who I am?
Think of what I just showed you on the screenshot of the rate watch, right? And so I texted all to my core agents, right? Tuesday morning, yesterday, when the market just tanked. And everyone else is saying, hey, markets are tanking, jump off, panic, sky's falling. Like, hey, we're good because we got the secret weapon. I go, Todd. So Todd's my agent. I go, hey, Todd, market's moving. That's okay. A lot of times market's moving. That's okay. Remember the seller buy down I taught you. And so if you have listings the offers are coming in low, don't automatically decline them. Bring me in. I can help bring them up to the price that we can work with, but also deliver the payment that client needs. So I want to be your counter guy in your listings. And also too, if your seller starts to get concerned because he has to sell and move up and the market's moving, bring me into that conversation because I want to put a whole seller buy down TCA for him to ease his fears too.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, that's it. So, this is a big deal, guys. Let me just, hold on one second. Let me go to another page, make sure. Shoot, we covered a lot. We went a little more complex. And again, I'm sorry, I'm always going to be Storybrand and fight myself right now.
Well, no, I think it was a huge value, guys. So as we kind of wrap up, I think I would sort of put a couple of action plans in place, and then maybe Scott, you can throw a couple out there. Number one is if you haven't read or listened to the book Storybrand, do it. There's also the interview that Dave did with him, which is about 20 minutes from last week. Just look down below in the group and you'll find it. At least that'll give you a sense of what it is, but I think it's really critical for all of us. Number two is then start executing, right? The people who know how to execute well don't figure out what's going to be the perfect thing. And a great example of that is Josh Metal showed me when he was in town last week, went for hiking. He's like, oh yeah, saw that video on Friday. And he already then recorded a video, pushed it out to Facebook and put it out there. Was it perfect? Heck no. He watched it again and he learned and he's now going to adjust. And so execute on it, figure out what you can do with the Storybrand. And then obviously Scott just did a gift and laid down how he's using it within this seller buy down strategy, which I would encourage you guys to check out. All the links are below in the video of what he's done and given to this community before. What else should we add in there before we
implement a TC on every single transaction you're going to win? Give them a game plan. Tell them exactly what they can expect, like a path. Be that guide, like a tour guide. You're going to this is exactly what you're going to do. Number three, review everything you put out in the market via if it's creating content for marketing. Make sure that message is super, super clear and super simple. Number four, and I do this for my seller buy down group, send me some of your basic TCAs or seller buy down reports and have maybe a peer saying, hey, can you review this? Did this make sense? It's kind of having a peer mentor going, hey, are my TCAs effectively getting across? Because here's why, because go back to the study. If you're getting 100 leads over your certain time period, you're only converting a small percentage, maybe because your message wasn't very clear on your TCAs or whatever you're delivering. So if you sharpen that up, that'll increase your pull-through rate. So I think those four things.
All right, gang. Well, now you have some homework. It is Friday. You maybe have a long weekend ahead of you. My encouragement is to go out there and spend some time to figure out how you can move your business forward between now and the end of 2019. 2020 is almost here, 53 days away. I want to thank you all for being here. Scott, oh man, that was so much fun. Thank you. On behalf of Mortgage Coach and Win by Noon, I'm Todd Bookspan, and we are out of here another week of Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.